Welcome to the SLP Business Podcast. The SLP Business Podcast. The SLP Business Podcast. I'm so excited to dive in and talk to you today. We're talking about the hustle, and it has to do with confidence. It's just about that ability to connect with clients. All right, ready? Welcome to another episode of the SLP Business Podcast. I am so excited for this episode, you guys, because today is my 40th birthday, and I honestly am still processing the fact that I'm 40. But y'all, I want to share with you 7 business lessons that I've learned in my 30s. I started my private practice when I was, I think, 34 or 35. It's been 6 years. So there are lots of lessons I learned along the way. So I'm going to share those 7 lessons that I learned as I started my business as a new entrepreneur in my 30s. And hopefully you guys can take some of this wisdom and apply it and maybe avoid some of the mistakes that I made. But thank you so much to all of my supporters for wishing me happy birthday today. Thank you all for all of the products that you've bought for me, going to my conferences, listening to this podcast. It truly means a lot. And as a creator, I do this because I really love this community that I've built. I really love being able to share my platform with all of you and bring you along on my journey. And you guys know that I firmly believe that when you go on a journey and you build something amazing, that you should never do that alone. So I'm glad that you guys get to share this space with me. So let's jump into the 7 lessons that I've learned in business in my 30s. And I'm going to share those today with you on my 40th birthday. Okay, so lesson number 1 is to go all in. I am doing that right now as I'm telling you this, right? The reason that I'm sitting in this podcast studio recording this video podcast is because I decided that in 2025, I was going to go all in on my podcast and my media, and that I was going to build my own platform so that I can continue something that I started a long time ago. And when I started it, it wasn't my best product, right? So once you have the opportunity to make it better and go all in, you should do that. It's just like starting a private practice, right? A lot of times people start private practices and they do them on the side, which is what I recommend because that's how I started my private practice. I didn't fully commit to working for myself and, quitting my job until I knew for sure that this was something that I really wanted to do. And I started slow, building a clientele, and then I went all in, right? But I didn't take a long time to make that decision. It was about 6 months, and I made that decision on, in that 6th month of building my caseload on the side. And I decided I was going to go all in. So I want to encourage you to go all in on whatever that thing is that you've been working on for a long time. Maybe you started something and it's not your best product and you've just been, working at it little by little, but you really dream of having something amazing flourish from what you started. Okay. So go all in. Don't take years and years and years and stop procrastinating. My second lesson or piece of advice, I should say, is that your cash register needs to ring every single day. Whether you own a private practice, whether you own a small business selling apparel, whether you own a content creation business, your goal should be to have your cash register ring every single day. And the way that you achieve that is by building a team and scaling. Because yes, it is difficult if it's just you and you're working on your business and doing all these other things. It is difficult to make money every single day, especially when you're trading your time for that money. But the key to making your cash register ring every single day is to stop trading your time for the money. I have several streams of income in all of my businesses. I have over a dozen streams of income that make me money every single day. My private practice makes money every single day. My other business ventures, they make money individually every single day, right? In between one product being sold, another product's being sold. So every day, one of my business ventures is making me money. And the reason that I say this is not because of, my obsession with making money, although let me be real, I love to make money. Okay. But the reason that I say this is because cash flow is king in business. If you have a business that has cash flow problems, it is very stressful. In fact, some people that have cash flow problems become so overwhelmed that they just decide they're going to stop doing their business altogether. They're going to quit entrepreneurship because cash flow is causing them such a headache, right? Having that negative cash flow or not seeing money coming in to replace the money that goes out, that can be super overwhelming and stressful. So in order to get ahead of that, you need to have money coming in every single day, and you need to have more money coming in than money that is going out. If you guys remember my story about why I started doing school contracts, it was because I had a cash flow problem. I hired a biller to help me with my clinical claims, the claims that we were submitting from insurance, and none of those claims were being processed or paid. So we started to pay therapists, but no money was coming in to replace the money that was going out. And so my way to pivot and add extra money into my business and make sure that my cash register was ringing every single day was to add an additional revenue stream. And that was school contracts, right? So like I said, I have dozens of revenue streams today, and it's very reassuring because I don't have to worry about cash flow. So the lesson is that your cash register needs to ring every single day. Make sure you have more money coming in than money going out. All right. Lesson number 3 is that you need to show up for your business. You need to be the one that starts early and stays late. And it doesn't have to be like that forever. There's going to be a time in which you can come in whenever you want and leave whenever you want. But when you are building and starting, you have to show up for your business. And this is something that I used to say a lot. For those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that is one of my phrases: show up for your business. I go to work every single day dressed just like you see me now. I don't go to work in sweats. I don't go to work if I've left the gym. And even though, you know, the gym is closer to work than it is to home, I go home first and change and get ready for my workday, and then I go into the office. You have to show up as your best self for your business if you expect other people to show up as their best selves. So that is the lesson. Show up for your business and show up as your best self. Okay, lesson number 4, create your own table. I firmly believe that everybody can have a seat at the table if they build their own tables, right? So in my 30s, I quit my school job. And that was the hardest thing that I ever did because I'm not a quitter by nature. I don't quit things. But in that particular situation, I had to quit. Honestly, it was the worst job that I ever had. I built my own table, and starting my private practice was very symbolic of me building this table that I got to have the peace, the joy, all the things that were missing from my job working in the schools. And I remember when I was working in the schools and building my business on the side, I would go into co-working spaces and I would see all these women there, and they were so happy. They loved what they were doing, it seemed. And everybody got to be creative and make their own decisions, and nobody was telling them what to do. The energy was just different in that co-working space. It was a co-working space for women. And I would leave that co-working space feeling defeated because I knew I would have to go back to my school job where I was unhappy, where I didn't get to make my own decisions. And so I wanted to join that club and be a part of that table of women who felt empowered in the work that they were doing. So I built my own table and I started my private practice. And then this podcast is an example of me building my own table. I didn't wait for someone to invite me, to create a podcast with them. Or I didn't wait for someone to tell me, hey, you really should start this podcast. I decided to do it for myself and do it for my audience and put in, put my best foot forward. in whatever capacity I could. And as I mentioned, at the time that I decided to start my podcast, I didn't have all the resources that I have now to be able to hire a production team and go to a studio and fly across the country, right? But I did what I could, and I used the resources that I had, and I created my own table. So I want to encourage you that if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like if you're in a position, whether it's in your professional life or in your personal life, that you're not happy with, to build your own table. Stop waiting for someone to come and save you and say, hey, come sit with us. Create your table, and then you invite other people to come sit with you. I get to invite who I want to invite to sit at my table. All right. Lesson number 5. Come out of the gate swinging. Okay. Come out of the gate swinging. What does that mean? That means that when you start something, you start immediately and you start forcefully. You do not wait. You don't sit around and hem and haw and decide, oh, am I going to do this? Ooh, I don't know if I should. One of the lessons that I've learned in business is that you have to act on things quickly, or that opportunity might not be there anymore, right? So come out of the gate swinging, come out forcefully. And I always tell people, for me, when I have a goal and it's a big, huge, big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG, that goal is going to get done in Q1 or Q2 of the year. I don't wait until Q3 or Q4 when I'm tired, when I've had too much time to procrastinate. I get those big goals done in the first 2 quarters of the year because that energizes me to keep going in Q3 and Q4. You have to be mentally prepared to take on your biggest challenges at the beginning of the year so that by the end of the year, it's already done. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think, oh my gosh, it's Q3 and I didn't do that big thing. Or, oh my gosh, there's 3 more months left of the year and I still haven't started working on whatever that project is, right? So for me, you guys see me here recording this podcast episode in January, rebranding a whole podcast in the first month of the year. Mind you, I just came back from vacation literally 2 days ago. So I got home from vacation, got on the plane again, came here, and here we are, right? In the first couple of weeks of the year with me taking on one of the biggest projects I've ever worked on. But once this is done, it's done. I can check it off and move on to the next thing. And every single big project that I've worked on, I've always scheduled it for Q1 or Q2. It's one of the strategies that I use that has been successful for me time and time again. So come out the gate swinging. Do not wait. Do not procrastinate. Lesson number 6. We're almost done. We have 2 more. Lesson number 6 is the hustle is necessary before the soft life. I'm going to say that again because some of y'all might not have caught on to that. The hustle is necessary before the soft life. Okay, so what I mean by that is this. People have started glorifying the soft life, especially on social media, right? Nobody wants to work hard. Everybody wants to have Fridays off. You want to have balance, and nobody should be hustling because hustle culture is bad, right? That is what we're hearing on social media. That's what people are talking about, especially this younger generation. People don't want to work hard. And while I agree that hustle culture is not healthy, nor is it sustainable for a long period of time, it is necessary if you are building something from the ground up. It is impossible to build a business from the ground up with no other, resources or help and not have to hustle. Everybody who you see who's successful, who is a self-made person, had to hustle. They had to show up time and time again. So the reality is that while, yes, we want to embrace that soft life and we don't want to get too bogged down in that hustle culture is necessary. Once you've hustled long enough, then you can take a pause and you can live that soft life. I was able to stop doing all the hustling that I was doing before because I finally have reached a point of having a team that has allowed me to have more time. And I was able to delegate a lot of things to my team, and they are thriving, right? But initially, I had to do all the work. I had to set up the systems. I had to create. I had to be the one to show up when nobody else was showing up at things, right? Embrace the hustle rather than running from it in those early days. So the lesson is that the hustle is necessary. The hustle is necessary before the soft life. Lesson number 7. This is our final lesson of the 7 lessons that I learned in business in my 30s. You can do anything you set your mind to as long as you have 2 things: time and money. That is the biggest lesson I think I've learned out of all these lessons. So this list really should be where this is the number 1 lesson. But you can do anything you set your mind to as long as you have time and money. All the things that I'm doing now, recording this podcast, planning conferences, those things would have never been possible in the early days of my business because I did not have time, nor did I have the money to support those ventures. However, now I have more resources. I have more time. I have more money. I have help. So I can do these things. I've always wanted to host a conference. That was something that I wanted to do well before I hosted my first Made for More conference. But when I had that thought, I didn't have the time or the money. I've always wanted to have my own platform. At one point when I was a little girl, I used to want to be on TV, right? I didn't have the resources for that until recently. So as long as you have time and money, you can literally accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. Now, there's another thing that you have to have as well, and that's that you have to have belief in yourself. You have to have confidence in your ability to actually do the thing that you want to do. And that is something that I've never lacked. I've always been confident that I can achieve the thing, but then obviously you need the time and you need the money. Now, what I also want to share is, besides having the crazy faith in yourself that you need to have, the time and the money, you have to consider a few factors, right? One of those things is I'm going to use planning a conference, for example. When it came to planning a conference, right? I had the time, I had the money, I had the faith that it was going to be a good event. I had people helping me. Lauren was my co-planner for that for the first conference, right? I also knew realistically what I could do and what I couldn't do. So be realistic, right? When you decide to finally do that thing because you have the time and you have the money, be realistic about what you can actually do. My vision for Made for More is huge, right? But for our first conference, is it going to be that huge vision? No. It's going to be an iteration of that, a much smaller version of it. But eventually, as we get more time and resources, we can make it into that big thing. So be realistic as you embark on that journey to accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. All right. So those were my 7 lessons learned in my 30s. I wanted to share these with you today on my 40th birthday. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And make sure that you turn on your notifications for the podcast because we have some amazing episodes coming out. I've had interviews with some of your favorite speech language pathologists. I've had people come in who are business coaches. This season is obviously my best season yet because I went all in, right? I finally accomplished my dream of having the podcast that I've always wanted to have. So make sure you guys tune in. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.